Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to be talking about why you're gaining weight even when you're eating less. I know this can be a massive struggle for so many people, especially when we have been on these really restrictive diets and plans that we have been told is going to guarantee us a certain amount of weight loss and fat loss over a certain period of time. But the truth is the body, it's not that straightforward when it comes to it. A lot of research is coming out now and has been around for a long time to show us that the calories in versus calories out doesn't necessarily equal a certain percentage of fat loss and weight loss, because we are intricate beings. We have a whole other system, hormonal system, digestive system, nervous system that is going on, that is all interplaying with one another, along with our mind and how we think about food and how our relationship with food has been so far. The first point is that chronic undereating slows your metabolism down. This has been made evident when we look at things like The Biggest Loser, where one of the contestants famously said that there is no reunion show because everyone has gained all the weight back plus some. There's a lot of evidence now to say that with the calories in versus calories out, especially when we're restricting massively and we're overcompensating with things like exercise, we're not taking things like stress into account. And cortisol, when it's heightened, is one of the key ingredients to holding weight on, because the body thinks that it is in an environment where it really, really needs to, for the longevity, to keep us sane and healthy in the long run. One of the contestants as well, I can't remember his name, but he had his metabolism measured after he came off the show and after he'd gained lots of weight back again, and said that, you know, he was burning 800 calories less, and by that time he was barely eating anything anyway, because what we tend to do is we decrease the calories more and more and more until we get to a point where we can't physically really lower the calories anymore, but we're still holding on to the weight, if not gaining. So even if you have, say, experienced that and you were under eating and then you overate and then you've got back to that point where you think you're being good, and I don't mean that in a sarcastic way, it's just that the problem with attaching morality to food is a whole other topic for a whole other video, and one that I will do in the future. But when I say good, I know that you've likely been trying really hard. You've been eating all really nutritionally dense foods, cutting your calories, exercising as much as you possibly can, doing all the things that you've been told are going to help you lose weight, and it's not working, which is so frustrating. But like I said, there are so many factors that we need to take into account that calories in, calories out and restrictive plans do not support. One of them being that your body thinks it is starving, because when our patterns are so erratic, which is something that a lot of us as binge eaters and emotional eaters tend to experience, we're very much all or nothing thinkers. We're one end of the spectrum or the other. And the body doesn't really have time to catch up with that. The other problem is that it becomes so familiar that the mind is drawn to that pattern. And so it doesn't matter if you don't want to do it. The mind sees it as familiar, and familiarity to the mind equals safety. That's why we get scared when we do things that we've never done before, because it's the fear of the unknown. And the mind is the same. It doesn't really like the new, because the new is a potential threat to its survival. Your brain doesn't care about whether you're happy or sad. It only cares about whether you're safe. And its number one job is to keep you alive. So if it knows that binging in the past, it may have made you miserable, but it's kept you alive and it's kept the weight on, then it's going to try and bring you back towards those patterns, because that's what's familiar, that's what's safe. You can predict the beginning, the middle, and the end. Another problem that we face is when we're being good, we're being restrictive, we're adhering to this plan, we're on a strict diet, and we're not eating any bad foods, we're not eating any foods that are less nutritionally dense, fun foods as we say. You know, we're doing so well and we get on the scale and we've not budged a pound, or we may have even gained weight. What a lot of us do is we tend to overcompensate with healthy foods. So even though a smoothie is healthy, it has a lot of fiber in it, it has a lot of fruits, obviously, you're packing a lot into that smoothie. We tend to what we tend to do is we take our old eating habits when it comes to binging, and because we're mentally restricting ourselves, because we're saying, right, I'm not allowed any of the fun foods and I'm only allowed healthy foods, the mind doesn't really understand that. It just says, okay, we've got food in front of us, let's go for it like we used to, and we can do that because it's healthy, but we can overcompensate. So although calories in, calories out doesn't necessarily equal weight loss or weight gain, a lot of us will take in a lot of calories to the point where the body has no alternative but to store the extra glucose in the cells, and then we get things like insulin resistance. And that's a whole other video for a whole other day. The other problem with this that a lot of us experience is, you may not have experienced that first bit, but we don't take into account our satiation. And when it comes to eating food, it's not just about the physical fullness that we feel, it's also about how satiated we are or how satisfied we feel. I know I have myself personally experienced that feeling when I've been eating only salads and only vegetables and only this and only that, and at the end of the day I may be physically full but I'm not satisfied and I need something else. There's just something that, you know, I can't quite quench my thirst, if you will. And it's the same with eating. I need that sweet treat, or I need something to really make myself feel like I'm satisfied, because let's face it, eating loads of salad and loads of lettuce and loads of veggies are great when they're combined with other foods, but just them by themselves is so boring, and it's hard to just restrict ourselves to that. So the body and the brain work together to make you crave other things. And then the problem with that is, a lot of us, even though we don't realize it, we may overcompensate and eat more of that than we realize. And this triggers more shame, more guilt, more fear, more resentment towards ourselves, more input, all of those kinds of feelings, which then fuels more binging behavior. The key in all this is that peace with food and binge eating and your relationship with food and eating and your body comes from physical and mental nourishment. It comes from supporting your emotional needs. It comes from seeking help outside of yourself if you do not have the knowledge and the skills to get yourself to where you want to be. We want to nourish ourselves, not punish ourselves. And the problem that a lot of us face is the shame and the guilt, which we've been made to believe that we should be feeling if something isn't working, because we're the problem, not the diet product or not the conditioning that we've experienced from advertising. And so when we're experiencing that, when we're feeding ourselves with that punishment and that resentment, that guilt, that shame, it fuels more binging behavior, it fuels more mental and physical restriction, and the cycle just continues on. So if you really want to take massive leaps and bounds ahead in your journey, I highly advise that you start employing more self-compassion, which is, you know, I know it's easy for me to say that. It's like, how do I love myself? How do I show myself that? You can start with the smallest thing, which is taking a breath after a binge or right before a binge, right when you feel it coming on, and trying your best to just take a moment to pause, do something different to interrupt the pattern, interrupt the programming, the way that your brain has been wired so far with binge eating and emotional eating. Taking a nice deep breath in through the nose, and out through the mouth, and assessing where you are on that scale of, am I about to have a binge? Do I feel a binge coming on? Have I just had a binge? What am I feeling? It can be something as simple as taking a notebook out and a pen and just almost vomiting the words in your head out and kind of purging the thoughts and the feelings that you're having. And you could be crying, writing this, you can feel really emotional and horrible, and just want you to get all of those feelings out onto paper, because when you can take the mental and make it into a physical, like physical words on a piece of paper, it can help you take a step back. Remember, look back from the canvas as a painter and look at the whole thing and look at where it is that you need to focus your attention on. Not more restriction, not more plans, not more regimes, not more over exercising, not more food. You want to look at where you need support emotionally. That's all I have for today. Thank you so much for spending your time on this video. I hope it's helped. If you have any questions, please leave them in the description box below. Please follow along, please subscribe. You are massively helping this channel get these videos out to more people if you do. So I would really appreciate it if you could do that. Share this with someone that may need to hear it. And you can also find the link in my bio to more free resources. I have a free masterclass. I also do hypnosis audios. And you can also find my link for booking in for a free strategy call if you're interested in having therapy moving forward. But other than that, thank you so much again for staying, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.